Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the first interview of 2025 where I'm interviewing SEO entrepreneurs and experts from around the world. In today's episode, I've got a very interesting guest for you. He is the head of SEO for the world's biggest online casino and one of the top streaming platforms in the world. Please welcome to the show, Peter Macinkovic. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the
That's
butchering the name.
okay. That's okay. I knew you were gonna butcher the name. I was kind of like betting in my head if you're gonna butcher it or not. So my name is Peter Macinkovic. So all the C's are a
Macinkovic.
C H.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's a Croatian surname. I don't look
Okay.
Croatian. I'm half Filipino, but that's basically that. And yeah, that's thanks for the intro there, Charles. Like that. Yeah, hi. I'm
I
glad to be
appreciate it.
on.
I should have asked you straight away there, but we can just jump straight into it and kind of ask a little background there.
I love it when people butcher my name because it always gives me a chance to like rib them a little bit early, and it actually is kind of an icebreaker. Like some people hate it, but like I love it. I actually had training today for like some testing software, and the guy who called me Luke, he just like missed me up for like half an hour. I'm like, dude, I'm like, yeah. So like that's a lot better because like, at least your mispronunciation is a complete understandable one.
Well, I appreciate you jumping on, and I know that time zones are a bit crazy for you over in Australia and things.
Yeah. It's 100%. Like it's 9:30 p.m. where we are now. But like that's kind of strange that our company does so much business in like Europe, UK, like the Africa, Latin America and Canada and those kind of things. Yet the company's based in Australia. So it's actually it's like the worst part of the world to base our business in.
Yeah, a lot of late nights, I'm guessing, with those time zones there.
Yes. A lot of late night meetings and talking to people such as yourself. Yes.
Well, I appreciate you getting on for it. So the first question that I had for you is how actually did you get started in SEO? How did you get or end up working in literally the most competitive vertical and space in the industry? And how did you end up working for what is arguably the world's biggest online casino right now?
Yeah, sure. So like I started my career like in 2011 and that was my first exposure to SEO, but I wasn't an SEO then. I started an agency. I was like what you probably call like an account manager slash digital producer. So like a Swiss Army chainsaw of someone who could design a little bit, someone who can code a little bit, or someone who could meet with clients a little bit. And that was my first exposure because in 2011, SEO was very different than what it is now. Like it was essentially just like very input driven. And like those of us who've been around a while can remember the days of Scrapebox and Xruma and GSA. It was all like a local plumbing business will legitimately have like 300K backlinks of pure unadulterated spam. Page rank was publicly visible, so you could actually like calculate the spam. You can calculate the actual page rank coming from Google's eyes itself. But that was, and it's very different landscape. And that was how I was first exposed to SEO, and I was interested in it ever since. So I just kept along, like read like all the blogs, did like little like I don't know if you know Squid Do. Squid Do is like kind of like a
Yep.
hub pages type of website. It was like whoever created it, but like essentially just did some side ones there while I was still at uni. And I just did that, but SEO was never my primary career. It was mainly just a digital all-rounder. Like I wanted to be a project manager slash just someone who worked on the web. And I did that for a few years. It sucked. I actually realized, like, as you do early on in your career, in your early 20s, you realize what you thought you were going to do, like, straight out of uni wasn't what you're going to do. But I had a knack for digital marketing. So, like, essentially, I got into digital marketing in a very small e-commerce retailer, like, just ran by pharmacists who want to sell beauty products online and Shopify. And I spent about 4.5 years there. And even though they had no budget, didn't know what they were doing, I got them to make at least some money. But because I was technical, I was really into SEO. I didn't realize how good I got at SEO, and I ended up becoming the world's best Shopify SEO, like at least from a technical standpoint, because I invented some early hacks for some really big Shopify problems. Like I invented ways to like store variables to create metadata for tags, which was like physically impossible, at least at the time. But I had a weird hacky system that worked. And then I did a presentation at the Melbourne SEO meetup. I've been going to the Melbourne SEO meetup since 2014. I was always interested in SEO. And I did a presentation that was 2 hours long. And my future boss was in the audience. And he said, Hey, I've got a client called JB Hi-Fi. And for those of you who are not in Australia, JB Hi-Fi is the biggest online electronics retailer in Australia. There's also many other things, but it's the reason why Amazon didn't take off in Australia is because we have JB Hi-Fi. It's like headphones, mobile phones, gaming, any like music and DVDs, anything you would think of, they were the top retailer for it. And they were switching to Shopify. And they're like, let's get the best Shopify SEO guy to do it. So that was actually my first proper job, just being an SEO as a technical SEO. It was like a senior role, even though I didn't technically work as an SEO. And I did the largest Shopify migration in history. Like it was like 250,000 URLs from their old web platform, which is called Episerver, kind of like a Magento-like platform, to 55,000 Shopify URLs. And that was very, very challenging. But after like 6 months to a year, after like the painful parts of the migration where I told him not to do it, but I still nailed the redirects and all that kind of stuff, it took off, did really, really well. So that means if you're in Australia and you Google the word headphones, iPhone, TVs, anything, we dominated. And as a result of that work and also other top tier clients at this agency, so I did like the largest like home builder, I did the largest like I don't know like large equipment hire website, I did T2, which is the international tea brand, those kind of ones. I had a reputation as like one of the top SEOs in Australia. So like I had a very good reputation as working basically on the biggest brands, getting the best results, and just dominating the SERPs. It was like a pitch where whenever we pitch new clients, we show a graph in SEMrush and say, guess when Peter started working on their account. It was like that's the kind of pitch. So it was awesome. So to how I got into Stake and EasyGo, which is the parent company. Don't ask me about the legal structure and stuff like that, but like essentially, like EasyGo was the web, there's a company here in Australia which operates Stake and Kick and those kind of ones. But at the time, Kick didn't exist; it was mainly Stake. They were looking for an SEO role in their company. Their company must have been like 40 people at the time when they advertised the role. But they just hired 3 months earlier their head recruiter, a person called Jasmine Isles. And Jasmine has been trying to headhunt me for 6 years. Like always wanting to get me, like every single time, whatever she was at agency or even when she went to a new place, like she was always saying, like, hey, do you want to get an SEO role? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm fine at like the company I was at. Or when I switched to agency, I was like, no, I'm doing really, really important work. But I happened to be interviewing for Seek, which was like the largest job boards website in Australia, and probably one of the like of the five dream jobs I would ever have was that website because it's like 1 billion pages, job listings, very, very complicated from a technical standpoint. So it kind of like interested me. But she made a very compelling point to sell me on that was essentially like, listen, you don't understand how big this website is, and they suck at SEO, and you will get the opportunity to work to grow yourself, grow your future team, and be part of something that they have all the money in the world to resource you. And you could once you show proof, you'll be able to grow it. So I did that. I accepted the offer. I quote unquote interviewed, but it wasn't really much of an interview because they didn't know much of it about SEO. Like I basically said in the first 2 minutes, okay, you're this technology stack, spelled kit, you're using Chinese CMS, but I don't really see any evidence of you structuring your data. So tell me about it. They didn't know anything about that. And they're like, great. So I got a job offer half an hour after the interview and I accepted the role. I got started and my first year was very much like technical and product related. It was all building the technology, the custom stuff, because it's a custom web application, large gambling platform, a lot of challenges, DDoS, all that kind of stuff, just to make SEO possible. So it took like 4 months to even get started to have like metadata and like the basics of SEO, what I would call the basics, the foundational stuff of SEO. And about 9 months before like it started getting its first results, right? So like that's the kind of thing. And for context, Stake was already $1 billion company when I was hired. It had like maybe say 500,000 brand searches a month at the time, but non-brand was like less than like a couple of hundred, like tiny, like the 99.99999% brand. So like just no non-brand at all. So I did that. After about a year, I was able to make my first hire in my team, which was Min, who worked with me in the previous agency. And she and I together are probably the like combined because we cover each other's weaknesses. We're probably the best SEO there is in Australia. Like that's a two-person group because we cover each other's weaknesses. She's very productive and we align in strategy. So it's like just very, very fast cadence. And after that, we just started like after being hit by like the March algorithm update of next year, which happens, which is always fun after seeing some progress. We just started pumping out content, building our processes, and then just started seeing results. And like today, we have 8 people in the team, including myself, like growing internally, and we're ranking for some of the most competitive terms. And Kick's not my idea, like that's the company there, but that's the fortunate part of being in such a creative and company that's hungry to win and dominate, is that they would come up with, hey, what kind of company would say, hey, let's compete with Twitch? Like, we don't like them. Let's build a competitive Twitch and resource it and take their best streamers and build a platform. So because of that, I get the opportunity to do SEO for like legitimately a top 200 website in the world. Like not, it's very mechanical type of SEO, but that's kind of how I fell in. Like this is my career journey. Like I've followed SEO for a long time, didn't apply it till like 2019, like properly as a full-time role. But I was always doing it as part of my roles as a digital marketer. And that's kind of like, and basically because I got very skilled, because I can code and I'm like pretty well versed in that kind of stuff and I'm good at communicating, that was my weapon to succeed in my career. And that's why I was in the opportunity to be where I am today, essentially.
Wow, that's awesome. So you kind of led me straight on to asking you something here about Kick, which is how do you kind of manage this large scale UGC, especially kind of the content creator profiles? I noticed when I was doing some background research for both Kick and Stake, especially on Kick, you seem to be the only platform. You also mentioned Twitch there and a couple others out there. You got Rumble and some other ones as well out there.
Yeah.
That uses site links and schema effectively. I've seen some others implement it and then roll it back or do things like that. But you guys are the only one that actually have got it, that it doesn't break and that it seems to work properly in the SERPs, which gives you these kind of extra additional SERP boxes, which I'll show
Mm.
up here, and you can get the editor to show in a link here for you.
Yeah, sure. So Kick is specifically a Next.js framework, but for context, it was in beta, what we call beta, for like a year and a half or something like that, because it launched very quickly. So just to go backwards, obviously when Twitch didn't like our main website, stake.com anymore on their platform, we explored alternative, like I wasn't personally involved, but obviously the company explored alternatives, and Kick was born like within a month or so, like when the company decided to do something about being like their off Twitch journey, essentially. So that first iteration of the website that was around for a very, very long time had probably the worst SEO possible. It was a Laravel app and Vue.js, but nothing was server-side rendered. It was very quickly developed, which is the impressive thing. But the website had a lot of performance problems, those kind of things. But the website was still very big as a brand. So Google crawled it despite the fact that it was terrible. Like it has a massive crawl, like the amount of crawls it gets per day is really, really high, amongst the highest I've seen in my career with many, many websites I've worked on. So by the time we switched to Next.js, which is a React framework that can do stuff like server-side rendering and like nice SEO stuff, we came out of the box with all this kind of stuff, like the good metadata, good stuff. But you mentioned schema. Schema is something that I'm probably world class in. Not many people understand schema properly. There's a lot of opinions on schema on the internet. I don't want to name and shame some people. Some of these people are my friends, but they don't know schema at a very, very good level. Like, as in, like, they didn't read Greg Kellogg's stuff in 2016, like I did. They weren't in the Google groups in 2014, 2015, 2016, and they didn't understand the point of schema. They've treated it like a labeling service, and they're treating it like it's 2011 and people are doing meta keywords in their title and they're over optimizing it. That is not the point of schema. Schema is supposed to be providing guidance and context for the robot. And the way I design it to how the spec is intended, and I only use the parts that actually move the needle. And that's through testing. Like I actually know which schema elements are used that actually matter and which don't. People just treat it like labeling service, like, oh, this thing, but they don't actually understand how to use it properly, whereas I do. So I prepare documentations for the engineers and I write a doc and say, okay, for profile page, it will be a specific type of web page called profile page because that exists as one of the 10 specific subtypes of web page. And then I treat it like it's a social media link. Now, the challenge with Kick specifically is that the profile page is also our live stream video page. So it's the same URL because when you visit, say, Aiden Ross, so it's like kick.com/Aiden Ross, if he happens to be streaming, it's also a video element. So there's actually dynamic parts to render of the schema. So you render it as a profile page, but then you have video object and broadcast event, and they're joined by using IDs. Then IDs can join these elements together. There's a very specific structure you have to follow, and even that gets tricky to try to meet Google's specification for live broadcast. And technically, we don't meet it, but that's not my fault. I designed it right at the time. They changed the specification on me. But I designed it so that if someone happens to be live streaming, it'll also render a broadcast event and video object. And they actually changed it around. So you had to do it the other way around, where video object has the broadcast event. I originally did the other way around. So it's an iterative approach, but because of my like long history, like it's been 10 years of working with structured data and understanding how JSON works, that I know how to design each page type to a generated schema. So every single page type, this is also true for stake, for our sports book and those kind of things. And that provides Google with what is the next or most important pages related to this pages using the mechanisms of the website. So like the related streamers or the sidebars or the footers and that kind of stuff. It just gives clues. And that's the kind of stuff that people misuse Schema for, is that they treat it like a labeling service for like hyper optimization. You're actually better off going offsite and doing that kind of stuff in content, even with specific ways to write. But for URL discovery, having site links related to even sub pages, having related games pop up into like site links and those kind of stuff. Before they nerfed it, having event schema in the SERPs, they nerfed that last year or the year before. Like that's the kind of stuff that we would have because they would occupy space, it provided context, and it also improved indexability, which is actually the core thing I'm optimizing for, especially for a website that's so mechanical like Kick. Kick doesn't have, like, it still doesn't even have a sitemap because we haven't honestly decided the best way to do it because there's so many URLs. But Kick's main job is that we have very specific things like on the VODs, the video on demands, we have an expiration using meta unavailable after, which is a terribly underused meta tag that is the best version of the no index. It does what people think the no index tag does. It essentially tells Google on this date, this URL should not be in the index. And it works better than a no index because it doesn't require a crawl after that date. And once they see it, they just have it in their system and they'll remove it. So we have a lot of crawl control mechanisms with that. We have a lot of URL discovery. For example, clips. We did not have a discoverable way to find clips because they were only available via share. So we just have to have hidden anchor text. And as long as you do the mechanics well, and you identify the types of pages. So I generally have like main pages, the website schema, which is site-wide, applies for everything that's important for entity stuff. So we do a lot of Wikipedia work and supplementary article works and reinforcing brand articles for entity stuff. So when you Google stake, for example, it says in the little article box on the side, stake gambling company, not just organization. That's very deliberate, and that was by design. That kind of schema really moves the needle, and any way you take advantage of people who are public figures. Kick is wonderful as a UGC platform. The problem with that is that we're at a very immature stage of SEO for Kick, as opposed to Stake, which is quite mature now, where it's purely mechanical. It's purely just like my generated schema and like my basic crawl control mechanisms, which works well for the platform, but it's nowhere near like the content production or like the hyper optimization that we do for Stake on a category level. For example, like we don't do that kind of stuff for Kick at this time, but we will eventually. It's more about, like when you get to a website this large with different competing priorities, it's more like fitting that into schedule, and then it opens up possibilities where you can resource that. Hopefully that makes sense in regards to like what you can and can't do with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's a fantastic kind of trick that you gave everybody there with the meta tag instead of going through the no index kind of route and stuff with the expiration.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, and one of the hard things to deal with like UGC content is that a lot of people violate our terms and conditions, because with UGC content there'll be stuff like spam content, scam content, um there's stuff like illegal broadcast of copyrighted content that we will. So essentially my search console is continuously with Google complaints, DMCA complaints, those kind of things there. So the way you have to manage that, you have to manage that within the mechanisms of Google itself. So like essentially if there's a valid complaint, you don't complain against it. You just let it slide and you try to remove the URL from Google using the removals tool, those kind of things there. You wouldn't block it from the index. That's not the correct mechanism. You just allow the mechanisms within Search Console to actually handle that kind of stuff. Whereas, say for steak, like if we get flagged for stuff, I fight it tooth and nail because usually it's competitive spam because it's just a shady industry. That's kind of how that kind of stuff works.
Yeah, you answered the question without me asking it.
Oh yeah. It's just one of the challenges that is because like UGC content is hard because
Yeah,
like I'll give you an anecdote for example. Like people can before we had templated metadata, people could write one of like their own descriptions and also the chat messages appear in Google. So sometimes those things can be like inflammatory or racist or like
yeah.
whatever. And Google, when they overwrite the meta description, could show a chat snippet that has something that's incredibly offensive on there. And you would have to use the clear snippets tool, but what we end up using is data no snippet as a over like say chat overlays, navigation, and stuff that's UGC content, and also from the creators themselves because they could also do it as well. We actually take that control away from the creators and actually have templated metadata. That's just for pure brand protection. It doesn't help us from like a SEO traffic standpoint. That is a pure reputation. I get slapped and tagged in the middle of the night because um, Google AI overrode a description. Like, actually, that was Bing for that specific example. But like, there's Bing overrides, a DuckDuckGo overrides it because they get it from Bing, and then I have to research and figure out how to overwrite Bing's generated metadata, which turns out there's a very specific thing you have to give into like the robots or something like that, and you block that, and then you have to clear that from the cache and all that kind of stuff. So it actually becomes almost like you're a moderator, but the thing you have to moderate is your presentation in search, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And kind of literally controlling the entity, making sure that no spammers or hackers are kind of abusing it and all that kind of thing. So I don't know if you recently saw it, but there's actually kind of a lot of hackers recently using Parasite SEO on platforms like Spotify and things, and
Mm.
also even a couple of the download websites and things to basically rank for kind of hacked downloads, cracked downloads, things like that. And then they were just infecting people's computers with viruses. It wasn't even it was just straight to the infection kind of with the virus stage.
Yeah, it's very, very shady. Like the casino industry is incredibly shady with these kind of practices, not necessarily on
Mm-hmm.
our website because like you could Google when we get hacked, but it's not usually generally for monetary reasons and stuff like that. So that's quite publicized and involves law enforcement. But like people do like brand sniping. So like there might be some like, stake app and we don't have an official app, for example. So they might create
Yeah,
a web page that optimizes for that term. And then they'll either be our own, like someone in our affiliate network who just wants to get commission, or a shady third party who, when someone clicks and they think they get an affiliate link, they go to some redirect shenanigans, say that Stake's not a safe website, here's five other casino alternatives, and get a commission that way, just as a brand sniping technique. So, like, it's for the casino industry, it actually becomes an off-site thing where we have to have takedown processes, like there's like legal and IT involvement and like operational stuff to take that down. So it's beyond SEO. SEO just happens to have toolings like with SEMrush, Ahrefs, and those kind of things. We just happen to have tooling that we actually are a primary mechanism of flagging these kind of things.
for sure. So Stake and Kick both have a huge number of pages and in multiple geos and all sorts of different things as well.
Mm.
How do you manage crawling, indexing, your crawl budget, your technical SEO, all of that for such a large platform? And not just one platform, but actually two platforms. How are you managing kind of so many avenues all at the same time?
Yeah, so there are different maturity levels. Like I said, Stake is something that I designed very specifically from a technical standpoint, whereas Kick I've contributed to. So I would contribute a little bit to it. And Kick gets away with crawl budget by legitimately being an incredibly strong brand. So like they're able to overcome it by sheer Google wanting to discover it. So it's almost like Google's up to the challenge to crawl Kick. And we just found like the most basic things like the infinite scrolls or like the biggest problem with Kick always was the VODs, the videos on demand, where it'll crawl a video and just keep it indexed forever, and people will find 404s because they expire after 30 days. So 99% of the 404s that appeared in our Google Search Console was that. So that was the meta unavailable after thing that controlled that the best. Whereas Stake has awesome crawling and indexing. Like it's not a fast website, but it almost is almost an indictment on page speed and those kind of metrics where it almost like they don't matter because Stake fails core web vitals with flying colors, I guess. We fail comfortably. And there's many reasons for that, but primarily it's because we have a preloader and we have to have a preloader for technological reasons, for legal reasons, and so on and so forth. So that is a battle that like as an SEO who's technical, would love to have a faster website, but it's something, and everyone in the business wants a faster website, but there's too many real life obstacles of the platform itself that prevents that. We have at any time about 3,500 casino games on the website, and you multiply that by 15 for all the languages, so that's however many thousand. So of that 3,500 games in our specific sitemap for casino, there will be probably like only 40 not in Google. So it's like 99.99% indexing, like perfect, like never in my career have I achieved this high of indexing. So we have sitemaps for very, very specific parts of the website by page type. So we have like some static pages, which would be like the home page, like certain terms, conditions, those kind of things. We have the casino one, which is small enough to have both casino and casino groups, which is the list version of the pages. That's for like slots, like casino, like our most important pages for from an SEO standpoint. That's the one that has 3,500. We have our sports one, which is segmented. So we have sports, which is like soccer, basketball, like high level. We have like sports category level, which is kind of like the second level, which most of it is not business interest, but it also contains like UFC. So, and then you have tournaments, which is a third level. That's the weakest part from a indexing standpoint because you might have some really, really old tournaments in the system that we just very, very difficult to manage, but that's also for a very specific league. So like the Premier League would live in there. The like actual tournament that's like the Wimbledon or Australian Open would be in there. The US election would be in there. So we have specified sitemaps with crawl priorities, even though Google says they don't respect that. I disagree because our most important sitemap from a priority standpoint is what we call fixtures. And fixtures are individual sporting events. That would be like Everton versus Liverpool, like this Sunday or whatever the schedule would be. It'd be individual match. 65% of the web traffic for a soccer match or any kind of individual match happens within the 4 hour span of the event itself, before and after. And you would get that as like stray bullets of like saying bet Everton Liverpool or Everton Liverpool, like whatever the variation of those keywords are. And that's purely up to chance because those pages have a short lifespan. They have like less than a week to rank. Sometimes they have a span of like half a day to rank. And it's good because competition's way lower, but they have such a limited lifespan that they might not even be eligible for the index. And we have very similar to the casino section, almost perfect indexability on that. And that's all because of sitemap prioritization, very sophisticated schema on our listing pages for the sports, the category, the tournaments. We have natural interlinking mechanisms for that. And that is purely mechanical. And it's probably my greatest achievement on Stake from a technical standpoint from an SEO is that essentially these event URLs, which have short pulse lifespans, we could get like 800 clicks for a third league Iran soccer league game between two random teams I've never heard of in my life. And it will just happen to take off. And that's purely by chance, but being available, we're able to create that opportunity. And you can look us up in Ahrefs and you can see that we rank for UFC betting, like #1 in Canada. We rank #2 for sports betting in various countries, like all these high level, high volume, most targeted, most valuable keywords in the world. And I will tell you that 50% of our non-brand sportsbook traffic is these fixtures. So like it's the stuff that would never show up in Ahrefs, the stuff that would never show up there, the stuff that actually drives user signups and user deposits and actual business metrics. That's the kind of stuff that I'm proud of. And it's like really, really sophisticated systems of sitemap generation. Like the schema stuff, like the kick stuff's nothing compared to the stake schema. The stake schema is probably the best schema in the world, I would say. Like that and like the stuff I did for JB Hi-Fi before they changed it, because I haven't touched that website in 3 years, was some of the most advanced schema in the world because essentially I've created mechanisms that use event schema that combine with entity schema and site-wide schema, and it helps our content as well. So there's like very specific mechanisms that you can add content HTML within the schema that helps improve the individual indexing of the text itself on a page. And that always helps with entity SEO and just deep passages and stuff like that. So that's a technique I've used for like 7 years now. So it's like, it's not new, but people don't do it. And I'm like, why don't people do it? It's like in the spec, they have examples of how to do it. Like it's in the description of whatever entity you're describing, and you can put HTML. People did it when they did FAQ schema. And that and also strong interlinking. The interlinking part is like stake, as much as I've designed it, there's actually a lot of technical limitations. Like we don't have a good related, like the same way in e-commerce you and Amazon, you have good related products. We don't have that in stake. Our related games is like a fixed list. It's the same 6 games on every single page. So if you've got a Screaming Frog, you don't have that. We have like 2,000 out of the 3,000 games have content, probably. Like some of them probably discontinued, but like almost all of them have like strong semantic, well done interlinking that was done by hand by our content team. And that's a process that we've done originally. We refined, we scaled it up. That covers so much of our technical weaknesses that we end up dominating because of that manual work. It's one of the reasons why we're so strong in English and like a little bit weaker in other languages is because our English content actually solves a technical problem. Like we use content as like as an SEO, you only can use the tools that you have. We were able to create content as a mechanism on the thing. So we use it to solve all our SEO problems. We solve it just for optimization standpoint, but we also solve it from a technical, relevance standpoint, interlinking, those kind of things. And we just hammer it home. And we just use that. Like it's not about the traffic a blog post has. It's about like what its information is passing through internal linking. And we have a very mature process. It's not AI, it's not anything like that. It's all manual. But because it's manual, it's guaranteed to be good. And because it's guaranteed to be good, like it does well. One of the things I don't do from a technical standpoint, I haven't done in many years, is a redirect. I don't really redirect. It's more, it's not like I can't do a redirect. It's just a pain to do it because I have to do it manually within code. So I can do it, but I'll only do it if it's important. So I'll give an anecdote. Like there was a category that got renamed. It got renamed from featured buy slots to bonus buy slots. And we couldn't redirect that because I was too busy to literally do the code changes over to the engineers. So we decided to update every single internal link on the website from the old one to the new one. And this was every single blog post, every single casino game that would have it manually added. So that was 500 pages manually done. Now, normally you do like a Screaming Frog and all that kind of stuff. Fortunately, we have a headless content management system called Sanity, and we have quite a mature operation where we just query that. So like these days, we could find that list in like 45 seconds. We can say, show me every page that internally linked to this, and we just modify our query because we have a template for that to query the content management system, and we can actually get a spreadsheet to say, here's the page, here's the anchor text. Here's the URL to edit it in the admin, and we can actually knock that out really quickly manually. And there's ways to do it in bulk, but we haven't figured out how to do that yet. But that process where we updated manually instead of doing redirect only experienced a 2-week drop. So it dropped from Google when the URL got disappeared. We updated all the URLs internally, and it returned to its previous position under a new URL in 2 weeks, back to like position 2 or position 1. So I learned that you don't need to do a redirect if you just do it the hard way.
Yeah, take the extra longevity kind of approach to it all, right? So
Yeah.
as kind of a sub question to that, I know you said you do a lot of manual work, and I know you talked about Ahrefs SEMrush already, but is there
Yep.
any other tools that you use like Deep Crawl or anything like that, or is it just kind of some local crazy huge screaming frog run?
So yeah, so we do weekly Screaming Frog crawls, but our Screaming Frog crawls are English only and what we call +1. So it's like we feed the sitemap URLs and we crawl all the sitemap URLs +1. So like
Yeah,
whatever they happen to link to.
one tier
And that's
deep in
just
the
a,
subfolders.
yeah, one deep. Yeah. So that just catches any strays and stuff that we happen to miss. For the example, for the stuff that we do where we know there's going to be a problem or we find it, is that we use Sanity, which is our content management system, and we query it. We query it in a language called Grok, which is their query language. And it's like a different version of like say SQL and those kind of things. And that way we don't need to run a Screaming Frog beefy thing to find all the like I don't need to know, like I could find every single hyperlink on our website that we can control with one query. It would take me like a minute and I could have it in a spreadsheet in there. I don't have to run Screaming Frog to find that. Like there's no reason to. Like the Screaming Frog will find all the mechanisms of that, of like the footer and like the menus and stuff like that. But we do a weekly crawl anyway, would find it in those, and I would know about it anyway just because I could see the PRs. So that's the kind of stuff that we do from a automation standpoint, is that we just have queries. I do have like some light monitoring ones. They're not automated as of yet, but like queries I check for like newly created content, for example. So like I could see when other teams like the promotions team or the casino team, they're doing some kind of, or the acquisition and affiliates team are producing new content and they screw up a URL in our content management system. So we have monitoring for that, and we have a very squeaky clean website that doesn't have many errors. And the errors that we do have can be fixed. Now, then again, like you can't replace Screaming Frog because, like, for example, we redid our homepage recently, but somehow in that ticket, they redid the footer of our website and they messed up the link to our live casino page, one of our most important pages. And that caused our rankings to just go all over the place for like 2 weeks. It was probably other things as well. It was going to shake up anyway and bounce back eventually, but we didn't know how long it was going to take to bounce back. It took 2 weeks. But because we did Screaming Frog, we realized, oh, the footer changed. So we do Screaming Frog. I will eventually do Sitebulb web crawl. I've talked to Patrick from Sitebulb, and but I don't want it to do it to find technical issues. The way I envision to do it is to create business intelligence. So essentially, like I mentioned, fixtures, the individual events, we can see how many, what the flow is, and do that over time. So let's do daily crawls on a very specific, fast-moving part of the website and then analyze that to actually forecast content creation or internal link strategies. So for example, if we have soccer matches, we could have like I don't use AI content, but like you could do an AI section where we can talk about the preview the match week and talk about the five most important soccer matches that's happening in the Premier League this week or for every single league. And we could do that with crawling and intelligence and feeding that into the system, and then or using data for SEO, for example, which is something I'm a big fan of, and then like searching the queries, scraping the articles, and then feeding that in as like context clues for like an AI. That's the kind of stuff I want to do, but we're not currently doing at the moment because I'm a big believer in manual content, and I would only do AI content for probably fixtures because they're very limited lifespan. They have like less than a week in all cases. So like no big deal because they're gonna get de-index. They're not gonna be indexed in a week anyway. So like if it helps it index or helps it perform, I'm all for it for like a big UFC launch event, for example, like UFC 312 or whatever we're up to now.
I'm guessing this might be a bit of a short answer because of you kind of answered a fair bit of it already, but AI has been kind of all the rage in SEO for the last couple of years now. Have you seen much of a change at both the SERP and workflow levels? So both in terms of, SERPs changing
Oh,
with AI overviews or AI features coming in and workflows changing. I know you just said that you didn't use AI content, but maybe you
Oh,
use some AI
well,
assistance for
not
other
not
things.
for not for content, yeah, but like I've used AI to create bookmarklets and tools for my team. Like I use AI to
Okay,
create
well,
like a Google Docs template where the gang can paste content in from a writer, but then make sure that it's valid. Like the URLs are correct, like in the Google Doc before they paste it into the content management system, or to convert it because they might have an international code, but we don't put it, we put it as the raw URL in our system. Or I have a bookmarklet that creates a pop-up of every single casino game that happens to be on the page because the gang will filter by provider and feature or whatever, like and try to get a list they can physically see on the website, but they don't want to copy and paste the name of the game, the URL. So I have a pop bookmark that just pops it up and they can just put it into a spreadsheet and then they work with that. Like it has helped me a lot operationally in regards to I see a team member like not underperforming. All my team members are fantastic, but I see a team member who's doing a task that someone technical like myself can do it very quickly, but I can do that. So, for example, we hired a link executive very recently. It's the first time we had a link person other than myself and Min, who's also on my team, doing it. And she was gonna do reporting, but then she saw like how daunting the reports are because I report on every single link that we get, the amount of keywords it has in Ahrefs and the traffic. And I said, don't worry about that. You don't have to do it manually. Like I showed it like where the metrics coming from. You open up the URL, exact URL in Ahrefs. Here's the positions. Here's the traffic. You don't have to do it manually. Open this Google Colab I have, paste every single URL in the spreadsheet. Like there could be like 150 or whatever for the month of whatever, and like for this particular vendor, and then it'll process it with a Claude assisted Google Colab sheet, and it will grab all those metrics using the Ahrefs API. So like that's the kind of stuff there. We are on Ahrefs Enterprise, but I'm like not using it to its full potential. So the stuff that I want to do for that. But AI has helped me operationally just by being a better problem solver within the business. So just my team specifically, but also helping out other teams as well. Like it's helped me come up with some stuff operationally that people who do stuff manually. Now, in regards to the SERPs, like you said, like the change in the SERPs, I have noticed like a difference in SERPs. Like when I started was 2022 and it's 2025 now. And the amount of volume of content and web pages is very different than it is now, and the amount of like resourcing that people have has just been amplified. So it doesn't fundamentally change that. It changes the nature of the SERPs. There's different types of websites that rank now than it did there. Some of those due to algorithm updates, but obviously you can just filter out that by the years by the people who aren't using AI, or AI confusing Google and just making everything a lot more noisier. Like it's a far more noisier SERPs, and I think Google struggles with it as evidenced by certain algorithm updates. Like I can imagine like the March update 2 years ago, the March update last year, and the August update last year were the ones that really, really shook it up in the gambling industry that I saw very specifically. Lost one of those, won two of those. So, that's good. But like, that's the kind of stuff there because I could see Google was really falling for site reputation abuse, but then like AI content that was like looked kind of legitimate, but if you knew the industry, you was off. But then again, how much can you write about in the gambling industry? Like Google's not an expert to know what's real or not real content. There's no real legitimate source of real content in the gambling industry unless you happen to work in the gambling industry. Like I know which blog is actually a legit game reviewer, the rest are crap. But Google, there's no way for Google to know that, to be perfectly honest. Links can't help them. They can't tell like a person legitimately is like into gambling games, and the rest is just keyword stuffing and like probably just someone else who's just generating it based on information. So I have noticed it. It's just become noisier. But to me, it just makes what to optimize for very, very clear. Like I always joke to people that there's 1,000 rank factors, 2,000 rank factors in SEO, but there's only four that matter. Two of them related to content, two of them related to links. So like,
So
so yeah,
we're
that.
starting to run out of a bit of time here. So I wanted to ask you
Oh
one
yeah,
kind of question before we head off. If you
yep.
had to start over today, would it be in a fresh industry, or what's the first thing you'd focus on for SEO?
Okay, so me personally, like if I had to start over again, that's a complicated question. Like if I knew what I knew now, went back in time, I'd probably just become a gambling affiliate. But let's not do that, because like it's a great way to make money. I've seen how much they get paid. If I like essentially, if I would start over right now, I would probably just for my sake, I would probably want to do something incredibly technical, like either a programmatic website or work. Like I would want to work on like an eBay or the Seek, like the one I was interviewing before type of website, like a website that's really, really big and like solving like because like the stuff that I really focus on that not many people do is real-time SEO. Like the only people who do publishing SEO and maybe like the jobs section, like that kind of stuff, do that. And doing the technical SEO kind of stuff is the thing that I want to. Like the things I think people like that I've grown the most as an SEO, like and the stuff we have is actually more operational. Like the fact that we work with our broader marketing team, like the PR team and sponsorship team. So they interview like Pereira, who lost, but like they interview Pereira, we put it on our blog, we amplify it with our like network. They do their thing, and then it gets picked up by Sports Illustrated legitimately, and it's like 50 grand worth of like good backlinks just from an interview that I had with an asset. Like the ability to communicate with people is the actual amplifying effect that I would say. Purely from an SEO standpoint, just having good partnerships as well. Like my relationship with my vendors is something I treasure very deeply. Like, I mean, like vendors are great. Like I rely on other SEOs to help me be a better SEO. Like I think I'm arrogant. I think I'm the best SEO there is in the world, but I know there's other people who are better than me at certain things or whatever. Like that's fine. Like, but I rely on other people because like knowing someone is there's no better feeling than knowing something is good. It's like here's however money you need or how many resources or how many team members you need and just I want to see how much you can do. Like and I feel that way about like many people in our like that I happen to work with. And it might be hard if you're a solo SEO and that kind of stuff, but like you could make these kind of connections and partnerships because as good as you are on your own, it is orders of magnitude less good when you actually have good vendors who can get you links or good technical partners that could build you custom software. Like, why are you reviewing a website? Build like a mortgage platform or whatever. Like, find a business partner or whatever. I always do that whenever people do affiliates and stuff. I always say, "Oh, why are you doing a thing for like loan comparison as like an affiliate when you can just create a mortgage broker yourself and just partner up with someone with a license and just do like a SaaS product and become like a multimillionaire?" Like that's the kind of stuff you just have to find good people and you'll have different experiences. Like you work at agency, you'll have to find good people, good clients, those kind of things. If you work in-house, being everyone's best friend as a problem solver is the greatest achievement you can be as an SEO because people come to me to solve their analytics problem or they respect my opinion on design and usability just because of my who I am. And if you're a solo affiliate, just having good connections to amplify your work and not don't hustling is the worst thing you could do because like it's just you're just trying harder. You know, the beat like you can try your best, but try other people's best and see what that gets you. That's the kind of stuff that you do, and that's the kind of thing that you want to approach. I still think SEO is very ripe as well. Like I know people like there might be some industries like homework help that's and like those like how much does a celebrity weigh or who they're married to or whatever that gets eaten up by ChatGPT and Claude and all that kind of stuff. That's fine. But the actual money keywords are still the money keywords out there. And so if you do want to earn your stripes and find something competitive, there is out there. And the biggest thing I've learned working in this job, particularly versus my previous job, is when I first started, my target keywords were like, I was very meager. And I said, I'll target like Baccarat online because it's not competitive or whatever. And I still to this day haven't ranked for Baccarat online or online Baccarat, but I've ranked for online casino, like the hardest keyword in the world in the US. And like sports betting, which is a keyword I never thought I would hit because I thought, oh, maybe the sports book doesn't have good enough technical and this and that. I was not ballsy enough compared to like my boss, who's like in like say Ed, who's even as a child playing RuneScape was like wanting to win all the time. And my perspective is that I've learned is like you just have to go for stuff to win. And don't like try to limit yourself. Just try to do your best. I remember when Kick was first launching, people like some people internally in the company was like, "Oh, that's not going to work." Mixer tried it, this and that. But I remember my current manager, CMO, he's like, "This is the biggest opportunity that anyone's ever had in like a decade," and he was right. Like so, just go out there and just try. Like just do it, and don't do the thing where you niche down and find something uncompetitive. Try something competitive because you'll be surprised. I know certain weaknesses and certain keywords where there's an intent thing where if you know the right intent, I'm not going to out like the way to defeat us for certain keywords, but like if you know the right intent, you could outrank a website that spends millions of dollars a month trying to preserve a keyword if you just beat them from a strategic standpoint. And I mean, there might not be money in there if you happen to hit that particular strategy, but there might be ways to do it. And like just go out there, look at the SERPs and try to find an opportunity and just try stuff. Like try stuff and be ballsy. So that's my advice generally is speaking to people.
That was an awesome message to end on, I think. And I definitely want to make sure that I get you back on the channel again so that we can kind of talk more about international links. And if you have any questions for Peter, hopefully that we can get you on the next one in the comments down below. Make sure to leave them there. Also want to ask, is there anywhere where people can find you online to get more of your opinions and insights?
Yeah, sure. Just find me on LinkedIn, and I'm not afraid of people soliciting me for links. That's what I'm here for. Like most people, people's like I try to respond to all the link spam. So send me your inventory. I'm open for business, but In fairness, I have very, very good vendors. So like, like if you want to solicit stuff from me, just give me a good offer and those kind of things. Same with you, Charles, as well. Like that's the kind of stuff there. And that's probably the best way to reach you. I don't know when this is going to release, but I'll be speaking at the Sydney SEO conference in like 2 days from now. So I don't know if this gets out by then. I don't know. Maybe I'll pitch for some other conferences, but I also run the Melbourne SEO meetup. So if you happen to be in Melbourne, myself and Nick Ranger host the Melbourne SEO meetup. She's also a very well-known SEO. So first Tuesday of the month, you'll see us host an event. We usually have very good speakers. We recently had Aleda Solis speak, and we had 110 people show up for SEO FOMO event. So usually not that many people, but come by if you're in Melbourne and say hi.
Well, you heard it here, guys. Expect 400 DSRs in your inbox tomorrow, Peter. Unfortunately,
I accept all spam. It's fine. I just say just send inventory. I'll have a look at it sometime.
fair play. All right, so I will leave a link to your LinkedIn in the description down below. It's always a mouthful to say a link to your LinkedIn in the description down below.
It's a terrible word. Yeah.
It is terrible. I appreciate you coming on so much to the channel. I appreciate you giving away so much. There's so many insights, tips, and tricks there where literally I don't think anybody formally I've interviewed has ever gone into that much detail around technical and things before. I'll make sure to see you guys the next one. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.